Alright, I finally finished this paper. This is it, the timeline of my life. Testimony video. 1980 to 2020. Here we go. I was born February 5th, 1980. I'm not into astrology, but I'm an Aquarius, and we're coming up on supposedly the new age of Aquarius. That's why I put this thing here. Plus, to be I was 4 days away from being a Pisces, so if I would have been born on that day, I would have been a Pisces, but I was an Aquarius. All right. So I was born February 15th, 1980, in Portsmouth, Virginia, Navy Hospital. My father was in the Navy. My mom was a hairdresser. They met at a dance, okay? And my mom's from Southern Cali and my dad's from upstate New York. So I'm kind of reminded of the movie Back to the Future, where if they didn't kiss at the dance, then Marty wouldn't have been born. And that's basically, if my mom wouldn't have went to this dance and met my dad, I wouldn't be here right now to talk to you. So it's kind of interesting when I think about that. So they were married in 1972. I got two older brothers born first, identical twins, 1974. My older sister, 1976. Me, 1980, and a younger brother, 1981. I was raised Mormon. Okay. I was raised in what's called the golden age of Mormonism, which was before the internet, which was probably the early 70s to the early 90s. Like 1994, when the internet came out, is when the golden age of Mormonism ended, because people were all online and finding out info easier. And this is important just because I'll explain it later on, but I quit the Mormon church naturally. I didn't know nothing. I knew it was false naturally. I didn't know all the secret masonry and all the crazy stuff involved with it, okay? So, 1981 to 83, we moved from Virginia to California, San Diego. And it's a family tradition to be a Chargers and a Padres fan in my family. So that was early on. I don't remember living in California. Then, from 83 to 90, I lived in Newport, Rhode Island, okay? And that was where my childhood grew up, where I remember stuff. Alright, so 1985, as a young child, I used to have nightmares that I was being chased by the devil in a dark, scary desert, sort of like the Nothing in the Neverending Story movie. If anybody remembers that movie, there's this thing called the Nothing that comes and destroys everything, and it's a scary thing. Everyone's packing up and hauling ass because the Nothing's coming. And that's what it felt like in my dream. I was being chased in a desert-like area. It was loud and scary, and I was a little kid. I used to wake up screaming. My parents would run in there. Alright, so I had dreams about being being chased by a devil when I was so young, so that's important to remember. So then I go on to 1988. That's the year my grandpa died, because my other grandparents were in California, so this is my grandpa from New York that I actually knew. I didn't meet my other grandparents till I was 16. Alright, so he fell asleep. He died January 17th in his favorite chair. He fell asleep and never woke up. He was about 62 years old. And that was the first time I dealt with death, My parents were crying. I didn't know what was going on. And it was also, I was 8 years old, so I was baptized in the Mormon church, because the Mormons baptize everyone at 8 years old if you're growing up in the church. And then when I was 8 years old, I won first place in a fishing tournament. My dad helped me catch a rainbow trout in the last 5 minutes of the tournament. I received a gold trophy and a free tackle box, which was pretty cool. And we used to love to go fishing. Fishing in Rhode Island in the 80s was so much fun. And I have some notes I wrote. So what I forgot to put was 84, I was obsessed with Nintendo games. And I think about everybody that grew up from here to there loved Nintendo and played Nintendo. It was like the new thing, to play video games. Everybody loved it and stuff. And as a kid, it was no different for me. I was obsessed with playing Nintendo games. I played baseball. I went fishing. I did all kinds of fun stuff. It snowed. We went sledding. I mean, we had a good, fun childhood. All right. So then, let me see if my other notes. Yeah, riding bikes, beach or fishing on the weekends. I got in a lot of fights as a kid too. I forgot to write it here, but my notes over here, I have some stuff written. So I used to fight the neighborhood kids for fun, and I was kind of a bad little kid, but that's just what happens when you grow up. Like these low budget Navy housing, and it was next to some lower budget housing, and there was a lot of people not getting along. So that's just what I was doing. All right, so 19, we're going to go forward past that now. So I moved to Florida now. Now I'm living in Florida, 1990. My family actually moved to Jacksonville, Florida, New Year's Day, 1990. So I've been in Florida 30 years and 7 months exactly. All right. So 1991 was when I first started surfing, and that's important because that's like was one of my favorite things to do for a long time. Surfing, boogie boarding, just being by the beach in general. All right, and then 1993. This isn't really prophecy, but I consider it the first time I prophesied anything. A rival from church was a Miami Dolphins fan. I told him the Chargers would go all the way this year. And of course, he thought the Dolphins would, so we were rivals. And of course, I don't know how, but I was right. They made it to the Super Bowl that year. They lost, but they went all the way. So it wasn't really a prophecy, but I consider that like the first time I ever prophesied something that I can remember at least. All right, and then we're going to go on to 1996. Got driver's license, first job, washing dishes, $4.25 an hour. Started smoking and selling weed. Surf first contest, got first in the first heat. So, first time I ever surfed competitively, I came in first place on the first heat I surfed, which was pretty cool. All right, so, and then I was in, high school, and I started smoking weed and skipping school and being a bad kid because I was rebelling against my parents because I didn't like going to church. So also 1990, I put 96, I quit going to the Mormon church. So I naturally quit going to church, and my parents did not like that about it, because they thought it was the true church. But I'm vindicated to know, and I'll tell you later on in this timeline that I was right. So some interesting stuff about. All right, 95 was the first time I smoked weed, but 96 was when I started selling weed. I used to sell weed out of my bedroom window, and I used to make a bunch of money. I made more money when I was probably 16 to 25 than I do now. Honestly, I used to make a lot of money off weed. I'm not saying it was the best career choice, because it wasn't, because I failed high school and I did all kinds of dumb stuff. So, all right, in 97, 98, I was skateboarding holding onto a car, and I got my foot ran over, and I had to have surgery on my middle toe. It busted. I sat in my room for 3 days before I went to the hospital in pain. I just didn't think it was needing in that bad a shape, but I had to get surgery. So anyways, I got hooked on pain pills, and then I sat in my room for months while my foot healed. And I actually made good grades in school with a broke foot at that time. But so I was playing video games, but I defeated the hardest Nintendo game ever made, called Solomon's Key, okay? I beat the game the first time with 18 extra lives, and the second time with 21 extra lives. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because the game is called Solomon's Key, and I took a picture of the last level because it's the hardest. You got to understand, this is the hardest Nintendo game ever to defeat. All right, when I was 8 years old, I could only make it to level 13. I beat this game when I was 17 or 18, but if you look right there in the middle, this is the last level of the game. I took a picture of it. I thought I had other pictures, but In the very center, once there's your little guy, you have to get past all these demons to make it to there. And that thing in the middle is actually a Star of David. I don't know if you can see it, but once you reach that, that's when you escape Solomon's temple. And as soon as that happens, the temple blows up. And it was just, I don't know why I'm mentioning this, but I was so happy when I beat that game because I spent 2 months constantly playing this game. This is the hardest Nintendo game ever played. I mean, if you look up old Nintendo games, this Nintendo game costs like $15, $20, but all the other ones cost like $3 to $5. So this is a very rare Nintendo game that I was hooked on, and I beat it. And I feel like it was one of my greatest accomplishments in video games. And I quit playing video games around there, 2004. I beat Tony Hawk Part 4, and that was probably the last game I beat. But yeah, so I beat the hardest Nintendo game ever made. You only start out with 3 extra men, but I beat the game with a lot of extra lives. I failed high school by 2 credits from skipping school to go surfing and hang out with friends. So I was a bad rebel child. I skipped school. For every 45 days of school, I made it about 25. So I failed. They changed the rules that year. I had to have a 2.0 GPA, and I had a 1.96. So go figure. I failed by 0.4. All right. So here we go. Also, 97 was the first time I got arrested. I got put in juvie. My dumb friends made some counterfeit money on a computer, and I was over there, so they snitched on everybody, and I had to do some community service for that dumb stuff. All right, and so in 99 to 2001, I moved out of my folks' house finally after failing high school and sticking around for another year. All right, so I started growing weed and was successful and made a bunch of money. I had probably $10,000 in my safe at age 19. And then, all right, so then I moved back into my folks' house in 2001 because I had like a crisis where I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore, and I quit talking to people. I became a hermit for a whole year. I quit smoking weed. I just sat in my room watching TV and reading for a whole year, and I just didn't want to talk to people. It was really like, I don't know, all my friends like betrayed me, and I just felt like a hermit. I was sitting in there. So I was at home when the 911 bombs occurred, and I heard my mom screaming. I remember that. And that was also the year that I read the Bible in 30 days. Because I mean, I grew up in the Mormon church and they do use the King James Bible, but I had never actually read the Bible. So I made it a point to read the Bible, and I read 50 pages a day, and it was embedded in my memory, okay? And that's important because I went back into the world, though, because I wasn't that smart. I was a young, dumb kid. Okay, so I go back into the world, 2002. I got a dishwashing job, started growing weed again, lost job, only worked side jobs. So for 5 years from '02 to '07, I did not work like a legit job. All of my money came from weed. So I survived off selling and growing weed for 5 years of my life without working very often. I mean, I did some side jobs here and there, but it was nothing like, I didn't receive a tax return or anything for many of these years. So I'm moving on because my phone only has 20 minutes on it. So 2007 and '09, I got arrested twice. I got arrested in '07. So I did 9 months for growing weed and possession of, and I was also, from this time, 2005, is when I was seriously drug dealing, like big time. I started selling cocaine. I was picking up like 9 ounces of cocaine at a time. Okay, I was handling big, huge, large amounts of money. And it backfired on me in the end because I ended up losing a lot more than I made. But at the time, I was paying my bills like $3,000 a month on my own off of dealing, okay? And I was living, a sinful life with dating strippers and doing crazy stuff, okay? So I got arrested in '07 and I did 9 months. And then the second time I got arrested in '09 for possession, I did 3 months. So I've done a whole year in jail. I've been in prison. So, and in '07, I had a dream while in jail of the devil after me. I saw his face and I heard his evil voice and he held me down and I thought I was going to die. And I woke up screaming. And the story is a lot longer than that, but I got to keep moving because I might not have enough time to fit all this in here. All right, so we're up past when I got out of jail. So I got just another dishwashing job. I went to grow weed in 2012, 13, and 14 one more time, and it didn't work out like it used to, and I was scared of the risks, so I quit doing that. And I worked in restaurants making minimum wage for a long time. I skateboarded to the bus stop. I was a barfly for many years. Different girlfriends over the years, unsustainable relationships, sucker for love. All right, and so 2014, had a job washing dishes at a bar, got second job mixing concrete for the swimming pool company, was with a girl named Angel. She died from an overdose. She was taking pills and doing other drugs. It was a serious low point for me. So you can only imagine if you're dating someone and they die on you, how horrible that is. And my life fell apart at that moment. All right, so 2015, I got an office job with my brother's company doing flooring, but I was in the office all day, so I had a computer, and I began watching YouTube and went down the rabbit hole. So this is the year I started getting smart and learning things because I was a dummy. All I did was sell dope my whole life, okay? I was high school dropout, professional dope dealer, not that bright, a surfer, 2015 was when I gained all my knowledge, and from here to here, I'm constantly learning things still to this day, but 2015 was my wake-up call to start learning, going down the rabbit hole and learning the truth, and that was my beginning of my awakening. All right? And so 40 years and 7 months old to 2020, that's how old I am. Then you got 2019, July. I had a supernatural awakening, fully born again, had an end times dream, became prophet. I was 39 years old. Retired from dishwashing, making $12 an hour. Retired from weed dealing, probably lost more than I made. And then I had the job mixing concrete still, but when I had that dream, I saw Lucifer, I saw the Four Horsemen. I ended up going to church that same day because it was a Sunday. It was about a week after the 4th of July. I had a dream. I saw, the Four Horsemen and Lucifer, and I went to church and then got deliverance, and I felt so good. I never felt so good in my life when I got the deliverance from Miracle Internet Church. And as soon as I walked out of the church building that day, I found a white feather on the ground, and I thought it was a feather from Pat Holliday's Angel Wing, because she's the one I was led to. I was listening to her ministry for that whole year, and she died 2 months before I went to that church. All right, so I started doing the gematria and writing some stuff, and when I figured out my name in gematria meant what it meant, I became a prophet and realized that. And it's also when I started seeing Jonathan Kleck's channel and learning a lot of stuff. So now 2020, here I am. The time sure flies. This year has been so eye-opening to many people, and I pray every day for more people to repent and turn to the Lord. Thank God for saving my soul. Amen. All right, so that's the timeline of my life. I didn't live a holy life at all. I was a sinner. I made a lot of mistakes, okay? So now we're here at the fun part, the pictures. This is that video game Solomon's Key. I don't know if you can see. There's a Star of David in the middle there. It's hard to see with my bright light, sorry. That was my favorite car. My best friend actually wrecked it, but that was my car. I used to strap my surfboard on there and go surfing. This is a good day at the beach. That was my other car growing up. That was my grandpa's wagon. We used to load it with surfboards and go surfing. There's the waves aren't that big in these ones, but there's some pictures of me surfing, and these pictures are going to get better. You're about to laugh really hard at some of these pictures, okay? There's me flying off the top of a wave. There's my friend that caught the same wave. These pictures are going to get funny. So there's me doing a huge power slide at Kona Skate Park, but what you notice, everyone's wearing helmet except me. I just charged the park with no pads or nothing. And then there's me wakeboarding, surfing as a younger, that was when I was really younger. Surfing again, skateboarding downhill, speed skating is what I was good at. I used to love skating the hills. Surfing, skateboarding downhill, doing a manual. More skating, wakeboarding, my car, my skateboard. There's my car getting towed to the junkyard. There's me as a 17-year-old dope boy. All my stickers on my door. I was a rebel child. And this is like the bar scene, okay? All the bands playing heavy metal, bar playing, like getting drunk at the bar all day. That's one of my friends being an idiot. There's me with a beer in my hand. Look at my eyes, boy, I was faded. There's me staring some chicks down fresh out of jail. And there is the craziest picture of me, okay? Look at that. I was throwing up the devil horns. Like, I didn't know anything back then. I was just lost in the world. Look at how evil I looked. Alright? There's my dog. He died last year. His name was Splinter, named after the Ninja Turtle master. That was one of my favorite cars, this Volkswagen. It was an 85 GTI. Then I had a bunch of pets. I had lizards, bearded dragons, saltwater fish. That was Puff Daddy, the puffer fish. And then there's a blue grouper and an eel. More bearded dragon, grouper, bearded dragon. A snake. I had a snake. There's a snake eating a rat. Actually, that's my buddy's big snake. I had a snake that was smaller than that. There's my dog. There's another small snake I had. There's Puff Daddy again. That was when my lionfish died. He was upside down. And then I'm trying to flip through these quick because I'm running out of time here, but I got to show you this one at the end. There's me washing dishes as a teenager. Alright, that was the door of my bedroom. This is where all my Nintendos and stuff were at. Where I beat the game. I had all the video games, like every single one, like Super Nintendo, everything. Alright, that was my Nintendo setup. And then this, this is when I used to pick mushrooms. I used to break into cow fields and pick mushrooms as a young maniac. I actually found that shroom submerged underwater, and it was like a super bright orange one. Alright, and then this is just some picture of a pink sunset like we see a lot. And then you got me as a little kid, and then me in high school. And then this is probably the coolest picture of me of them all. Holding onto a car with my dumb friends driving, and my buddy took this picture. This is from photography class in high school. But in closing, I just want to say, I'm urging all Mormons, Catholics, and all religions to fast 3 days, asking God to reveal the truth to you about your belief system, okay? It's time to stand up to your leaders and demand answers. The Holy Spirit will guide you to the truth. All Mormons,